What are you doing, Jonathan?
He burned my house down.
You rejected his marker. You're lucky he stopped there. What the hell were you thinking, giving a marker to a man like Santino D'Antonio?
It was the only way I could get out.
Oh? You call this out? What did you think was going to happen? Huh? What did you expect? Huh? Did you really think this day was never going to come? What does he want you to do?
I didn't ask. I just said no.
Two rules that cannot be broken, Jonathan. No blood on continental grounds, and every marker must be honored.
Hey, Adrenalheads, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
And I'm Cam.
And this episode, we're going to be covering John Wick Chapter 2 from 2017. So this is to continue on with our John Wick coverage. And with that, the synopsis for this particular movie is, after returning to criminal underworld to repay a debt, John Wick discovers that a large bounty has been put on his life. So it's very kind of vague, and I got that from IMDb. But we know a lot goes more into this particular movie. Basically, it takes right after.
Yeah, it picks up 4 or 5 days right after that movie.
Yes, and which is pretty cool, because you don't really get that much from other movies like this. So it's nice that we get that nice segue right into the next movie. So basically, he's, finding himself back into the thick of things. He's back as a contract killer to get himself out of whatever deal he had before. And he's back in the world of being an assassin, as he usually is. So with that, we're going to move right into the people we may know within the film. And first off, I'm going to move in and say Ian Mcshane. And we've seen him before. He was in the first movie, so he plays Winston. And he also plays Winston within John Wick, the PlayStation game, which I have played before, and I made a comment, too, on this particular podcast. And he just voices the character.
Mm-hmm. Well, who else could? You'd have to have him.
Yeah, you actually have to have the guy who has the voice, very much like Keanu Reeves as John Wick himself, He's also played Brother Ray in Deadwood, the TV show. Blackbeard in the Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides movie.
I forgot that one.
Yeah. and Tai Lun in Kung Fu Panda in 2008. So he's been a long-standing actor and within cinema and TV as well. So over the years. So if we went over his whole catalog, I think we'd be here for 2 days.
Right.
So I just wanted to throw that out there just for a few.
But back in Deadwood, he played Al Swearingen, though. I think Brother Ray was Garrett Dillahunt, wasn't he?
I do not know. I have not watched it. This is what I had pulled up from his IMDb listings of his acting career.
Well, I know he's Al Swearingen.
Ah, okay.
I've only watched it 100 maybe times.
All right. It could be wrong.
A few more times than I have watched John Wick, but
yeah. But he's out there, and everybody who you could recognize Ian Mcshane's voice and his face no matter what. He was also in American Gods. He was also in American Gods as well.
Most recently.
So, yes.
Yeah, he's a great Irish actor.
Yes. And next up, we have Keanu Reeves, obviously, the lead actor in it. We've known him in movies like Johnny Mnemonic in 1995, Speed in 1994, which pretty much kickstarted his action career, if you think about it. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure in 1989, obviously. And there is so much more. The Matrix, you could go on. If you don't know who Keanu Reeves is, something's wrong out there. Why are you here?
Well, and how can we leave out Point Break? He actually credits that as his first real action movie.
Yes, he does,
Yeah.
which is pretty funny too. Because the first thing I noticed him in was in Speed, which came out before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But with that, we'll move right into Ruby Rose.
Ruby Rose, love her.
Yeah, she's a great actress. She started her career pretty much in Orange is the New Black, but before then she was mostly a model.
Mm-hmm.
But she was able to do Orange is the New Black, and that lasted from like 2015 to 2016 within that particular season. We did see her in, I think, the following season, like maybe once or twice.
Yeah. Oh, she was a standout character in that.
Oh, yes. And then after that, she was in the movie The Meg. It came out in 2018, and which challenged her chops as an actress too, because she had to have an American accent, I believe, and that was pretty cool. And then following that, we all know her as Batwoman on the CW as Kate Kane.
Yeah,
and she has left the role since.
Yes, she has.
A lot of people do remember her as those characters, and as well as I do. And I'm so glad that we, have her out there still doing what she does.
I'd like to see what she's doing next. I haven't seen her in anything lately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. With that, we'll move right along into general thoughts of the movie. And Kat, since you picked this particular movie, because it is part of the John Wick series that we're covering, what were your general thoughts?
I love the series. And I really, really like Chapter 2, too. The world expands. We get not just New York as a character, then we move into Italy. One of the things, there's more depth to the story. We have more characters that are a little more fleshed out. They have a little more dimension. And just a ton of actors I love to watch. He's working as an assassin, but he's doing someone else's bidding in this one. It's still revenge. He is still out to get his revenge, but not by his choice. I mean, he has a choice, kind of, but not a very good one.
No, yeah, he chose to continue this voyage, as it were, right after the moments of the last movie, which is pretty wild too, because the only thing he has left is that one dog that he took away from that last movie.
Well, and like we see, he tries not to take this assignment, this burden on, but even Winston kind of chastises him. You can't do that. You can't.
Yeah.
Renege on that marker.
Exactly. So with me, I just love how the movie takes place 4 or 5 days after the movie, and the bounty is on him from now on, and I love that he is on the run, but is able to take down everybody that comes in his path.
Oh, yeah.
And Cassian is really after him this time. I just loved it. He's still pissed about his dog, even though he's got a new one. But he's still pissed about his car as well.
Well, and everyone who isn't pissed about that dog? Who isn't pissed about that puppy being killed?
I think everybody who remembers John Wick remembers the dog.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the whole framework of this series.
Yes, and we know people who will not even watch it because of that scene.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
They could avoid that scene, they will.
Yeah. When, of course, we have a dog that has no name. He's just called Dog, which just, it makes me think of one of our favorite series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Daryl Dixon in there.
Yeah. He took Daryl Dixon's idea of just naming it Dog. It's just Dog. So we find out the car is very important to him, as we know. And apparently this man has his priorities at this point. He has lost his wife. He has gone through all those issues. He lost the other dog. Now it came down to the point of his car, and we realized that's what makes John Wick who John Wick is.
Well, and that's where the movie jumps right into the action with him going after that car, but all of the chase scenes in the streets of New York at night, where he's opening doors. They called it car fu. Did you see that instead of kung fu?
Yes.
Yeah, and he and Common were calling the rest of it, parts of it, gun fu.
Car fu.
But yeah, we get that great segment where he's going after his car. and kicking ass with all the guys in the garage. And of course, then we meet up with Peter Stormare again. What was his character's name? He was Viggo's brother from the first movie.
Yes.
But Peter Stormare, so how can you forget him?
Yeah, and we'll move right along right into our favorite scenes or shots in the movie itself. And I'll start off, and you kind of mentioned it already. I just love the intro scene when John gets the car back, but has to battle his way through all the men. You already stated a car chase that leads to hand-to-hand combat at some point. So much physical work that Keanu Reeves has to do on his own at that age. He's not a young man anymore. So the man is not young, but he is so invested in his art. And you have to love him for that. Keanu is very a physical person. He throws himself into his work all the time.
Yeah, and I think he was maybe 53. I wonder how old the character of John Wick is supposed to be. I don't think the character is actually that old.
No, I think if anything, he's probably within his mid-40s at most.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Because usually they, when they try to do these characters or anything, usually it's like maybe within 10 years.
Mm-hmm. And well, Keanu pulls it off. He does not look 50-something. Although I've got to say, in Chapter 3, he's looking his age a little more.
Yeah, well, we all get haggard over the time.
Well, and imagine living his life.
Exactly.
Oh my God, I'd look 100.
All right. So what was your first favorite scene?
Well, it's hard to pick them, and it depends on what day and what time I'm watching it, but every scene that he was in with Common was wonderful. The bar scene is terrific. In the beginning, when they just meet up right after he assassinates Gianna D'Antonio. Yeah. Even their face off, where they're standing in that crowd. People are walking by, and they're facing off. You working tonight, John? Yeah. Was it a good night? Afraid so. And they the shootout starts. Yeah. I guess that this whole movie is carnage. I mean, 128 murders, assassinations. And the thing that makes me cringe the most is that scene where John Wick and Cassian are throwing each other down those stairs in Rome. Oh my God, every time I watch it, I just wince.
Yeah, my body felt every hit every time they hit a stair or floor. Yeah. I mean, they're wearing body armor and get shot, and their insides are purple and turning to mush, but falling down those steps is what kills me. So, yeah, anything they're in together, all of those scenes. I like the bar. You can tell that they're friends, colleagues. They respect each other, but they know what each other drink. So they've spent some time together. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of the place in New York, and it's forgetting the name of the place. Is it called the Continental?
Yes. Well, isn't the one in Italy also referred to as a Continental?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And that's the whole thing. It's a dedicated area where all these assassins could go.
Right, it's their refuge.
It's their own refuge and to get away, or if they're on a job, they're able to go there. And it's something really cool for the fact that no matter where they are in the world, they're always recognized. They already know who they are. Mm-hmm. And with John, at this point, he already did something, and his name is on a list, and people are aware of it. Everybody's aware of what's going on within his life, even though he's been taken out of it. And we saw that within the first movie. It's like, oh, you're back on the job.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so he's one of the most renowned assassins out there. I mean, he performed the impossible task. Everyone knows who John Wick is.
Exactly. So with that, he's been... he's back on the job, as it were, and now everybody is looking at him with open eyes going, wait, what's he up to? And that world itself within the Continental, or all these different areas of where they get their weapons, they get their suits, everything has that that coin marker where they could use that as currency for that kind of assassination job.
Right. It's its own world inside of our world that we
Correct.
don't know about, just like this other world in New York that we find out about later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes you think of New York in a different light if you think about it.
Yeah, I had that in here later. That one of the things we do find out about New York is a third of it is assassins, and a third of it is beggars and buskers and secret spies of the Bowery King.
Yeah.
And the other third is just us walking around,
Just
being
us doing
oblivious.
Being tourists or people who work or live within the city itself and just go about our business, our daily business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so weird. And then you have this underlying little world that's there.
Yeah. The underworld.
Yeah. The underworld, as it were.
Literally.
And not the subway, but the underworld. Oh.
So, yeah.
And to add on to that, I just love that he has a new love for the new dog, and there's a certain specific scene within the movie where he does show his caring for the dog, and he brings the dog with him. But he's also reflecting on his wife and his life, too, as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always something that we're going to go back to. And it's the things that drive John to do what John does, because of the previous events from the first film.
Right. And in the scene we were talking about where you were mentioning he's going back to get his car, his dog's important, his car's important. I mean,
yeah, look at the car after all said and done.
I know. I love it. When he drives it away, it's just like, it looks like a cartoon. I was expecting one of the wheels to be like square.
Oh, he had no doors at one point. Everything's all smashed. And I just love what John Leguizamo says. He goes, dude, what the hell did you do to this?
And I don't know if you noticed, but your windshield's cracked.
Yeah. John, this is a big order. I don't know what to tell you, man.
Yeah. Good impersonation. Well, and the other thing, not only is he getting his car back, one of the important things is the birthday card from Helen is and I think a picture in the glove box. Because they make a point of showing him pulling that out, and we see how he loses some of that stuff again later on.
Yeah, it's perfect foreshadowing of all that, too, within the film. And there was a reason for the car, and that was one of the main reasons, I think, because there was so much sentimental value to it itself for John.
Yeah. So I wonder if he had that car before Helen. I'll bet you did.
I think he did. And I think that's the whole point, is it was his car before her, but they had memories with it, very much like with the dog, because she just got the dog, as we know from the first film. And he was stuck, and that was the last days of her life.
Right.
And then that dog is taken away from him.
Right.
Now the car is taken away from him. So he has to deal with that.
Yeah, and he's just trying to hold on to pieces of that life that's been ripped away from him.
Exactly.
And in this movie, little tiny pieces of it keep getting taken away.
Correct.
Time by Santino.
It's as if John's sanity, or pieces of John's sanity, is taken away from him slowly, little bit by little bit, to bring him back to this world.
Yeah. Well, it's all he has to hang on to.
And it's his fight, literally, during these films for him to hang on to do, but it's just him doing what he does, he's naturally able to do.
Well, can't we see a prequel with just he and Helen setting up housekeeping and going to the beach, making supper? Be a whole different movie, wouldn't it?
It would be a whole different movie, or him explaining to her what he did before.
Yeah, I had wondered if she knew. I'll bet she couldn't have known who or what he was before.
I don't think she knew exactly what he had done before, but you could tell for this man, he has multiple scars, not just mental, but physical too.
Right. And
so how do you explain that? It's like, I was like, hold on, where did you get that? There's a big gash across your chest. Where did you get that?
Oh, this little thing,
I was killing this guy in Japan once, and he came at me with a sword, and what? It's like,
like most of my days, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just something that happens every day to everybody. But it'd be interesting to see something like that. They probably wouldn't do that as a movie if they do anything, because they're working on another John Wick movie.
Yeah, and I think in 4 they do show a little more about his previous life. I don't know where I saw that, if it was a trailer, but we see Helen again in it.
So that would be great. So if they do something which is like a little segue or part or deleted scene, it would be like maybe 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
Of their life together. That would be interesting.
Yeah,
I would watch
be little
that.
Flashbacks.
Yeah, do that as like a DVD or Blu-ray extra, or just do it as extras in general, because everything is digital now. So
yeah.
they could easily throw that in there, so that way they could label it as John Wick's past life or
domestic John Wick.
Yeah,
John Wick being domesticated. He was house trained.
Yeah, I can't see Keanu Reeves making muffins for somebody in the morning as they're sleeping and
I can.
Handling the dog.
I can, but that's my own private fantasy business.
Another thing that I liked within the movie itself is Santino's talk with John, explaining that he can't get out that easily. And John knew the stakes, but had to go back to this life regardless. So he's still torn based upon, who he was and who he has become. Such, it was very much an incredible scene to me to see. He realizes after Santino's actions were based on the contract, but then John knew what was to happen because he had to act upon it.
Was that the scene with them in his house when he first shows up? Like
yes.
Right after John is finished burying his past again in the basement?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Santino coming in and playing cleanup character, like the wolf in Pulp Fiction.
Oh, I hadn't thought about
Think
that.
about it. I always look at it as that. So, yeah, there's a character in Pulp Fiction that we all love that Harvey Keitel plays.
Yeah,
and I just love that character in Pulp Fiction where he's like, all right, this is what you're going to do. You're going to get me all the linens that you have here. Just like, but in this case, Santino just comes in and does what he needs to. And he just looks at it and he goes, but John, come on, look at it. The place is a mess. And he hands him the coins or whatever to do it, to fix it. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I don't like Santino though.
A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
And as we should explain, Santino was John Leguizamo.
No, Santino is the Italian.
Oh, yes. Yes, I forgot. Sorry, but John Leguizamo does play one of the characters.
Yes,
that was the one.
My brain was going a little crazy there when you were calling him Santino.
Yeah.
I don't remember that character's name. But yeah, that's part of the humor in this. That's part of, it's dark. I mean, how do you explain a movie where over 100 people are killed, but it's fun? It's also funny. Truly?
Yeah, it's not a comedy. But if you have that sixth sense of humor as we do, we watch this nonetheless.
Yeah. And it's real, it's downplayed, subtle humor, but it's funny.
It is. Do you have another particular favorite scene that you have?
Oh, let me see. Well, I mean, it's getting farther on into the movie, but one of my favorites is that Hall of Mirrors.
Ooh.
At the end.
Yes.
It blows me away. Just like in the first John Wick, when we had that first 13 minutes of nothing but long shot, nonstop action. And I guess like in the catacombs, they did that with one camera. One long shot as much as they could. So they're continuing that.
Yeah.
But that Hall of Mirrors scene, just as far as how it was shot, how well done it was, the homage, to Enter the Dragon.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know that movie very well. I thought you might. I didn't know if there were any parallels in the story or the villain. Do you know any of that?
Not really, not necessarily, but it was filmed in that same sense to give that same tension of it.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's somebody who's torn and they got these mirrors and they're being surrounded by themselves. And that was very much like what Bruce Lee's character had to portray in Enter the Dragon. But in this, they used it to their advantage to increase suspense and thrills and what's going on within the actual scene itself.
Right. And the exhibit in the museum was called Reflection of Souls.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was part of, in the scene in the beginning, Santino is talking to John, and what he's saying is John is inside already, looking around. There's mirrors, and Ares is also in there, Ruby Rose's character. And Santino, of course, he's not in the action. He's standing outside waiting for his minions to do his work. But he's talking to John, and he's saying talking about vengeance. And he says, I think you're addicted to it. And while he's talking, he says he thinks he's addicted to it. There's 20 seconds of action between John and Ruby Rose. And in that, the voiceover for the museum is saying how it's welcome to the reflection of souls. And it's giving its little deal, which, yeah.
Which kind of gives me that feeling of Demolition Man with Denzel Washington. Was it Denzel? No.
Demolition Man was Stallone, yes.
And, I'm forgetting. Wesley
Grace
Snipes.
Jones.
There you go. Wesley Snipes.
Yeah. Wasn't there a remake with Carl Urban, too?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
But they have this whole thing where it's a museum, and it's the Museum of the Past of California. Mm. And they do the same thing, and they're fighting, and they have the over the PA, they have the voiceover explaining the past history of California and everything, and where they are. And it's hilarious to watch, but it just kind of gave me that vibe when I saw that particular scene in this movie.
And don't tell me, in that movie, I don't remember, is it because California's fallen into the sea?
California has sunk or fell in. It was another major earthquake, so they combined San Francisco and L.A. or Los Angeles together.
All right,
so it was a weird thing, and they kind of made a museum of everything that was in the 20th century, and that's literally what that was. Whereas with this, it's pretty much, a museum of within the soul itself, but using mirrors.
Yeah. And there was in an interview with John and Chad Soleski, where they're talking about that and how it took months with the cameramen and production people of just practicing before they even took their cameras out to get the choreography for that down again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I guess what I was reading this was in ranker.com, that it took 5 days to shoot that whole mirror segment.
Oh, wow.
And they only shot for 50 days. So they used 10% of the filming time just to do that Hall of Mirrors. And
only 50 days.
Only 50 days to shoot this whole movie.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, how freaking tired you would be?
That's a marathon for anybody else that's doing this. And I guess if you're not Keanu Reeves, then you're out of shape.
Oh, God. I am not Keanu Reeves. And I'm not in too horrible shape. But God, 50 days to do all that action. The man's incredible.
Yeah. All right. Well, to add another scene
what's
that
your
I
other
do,
scene?
I just loved Ian Mcshane as Winston. John's meeting with him after the attack on his house. Winston basically just states that they were doing what they needed to do. And I have more of my quotes about this for this particular scene, so I could actually go straight down into it if you want.
Sure. So many of mine overlap that same way.
So, with that, Winston says, "You rejected his marker. You're lucky he stopped there. What the hell were you thinking, giving a marker to a man like Santino D'Antonio?" And John goes, "It was the only way he can get out." Winston says, "Oh, you call this out?
Mm-hmm.
What did you think was going to happen? What did you expect, huh? Did you really think this day was never going to come? And then they move on. Winston states, "Two rules that cannot be broken. No blood on continental grounds. And every marker must be honored."
Right.
So literally, it just shows that John had put himself into this and he has to follow through.
Yeah. Well, and true. Well, and Santino does say at one point that if you hadn't come back, I would have never asked for you to honor this marker, which is total bullshit.
Oh, it is.
Santino, you can't believe a thing that man says.
Yeah. Do you have another one? Another favorite scene or no?
Oh. Well, and yeah, we were just talking about Winston, just about, any scene he's in also. Like I said, this movie is full of actors that I love, that I'd watch in anything else, or I have watched in a lot of other things. But there's a scene where Winston is talking to Santino. So we have the same kind of setup like you're talking about, where, Winston is talking to John and kind of laying it out there and telling him, what did you think was going to happen? And I think he says that to John. He also says that to Santino in this scene. Like, what did you think was going to happen? And that's in one of my quotes too, where he literally tells Santino, you burned down the priest's castle. You burnt it to the ground. I have that in a quote later, which I would just butcher right now if I weren't reading. But yeah, he looks at Santino too and says, what did you think would happen? I wonder if that scene is even in the same room that he had with John. Be a nice parallel.
Yes.
So I had that later on in my quotes.
Another scene that really got me, that pencil scene with the Asian guy as John was trying to get away from everyone that had a mark on him. That was an intense scene.
Yeah, that whole, when he gets back to New York and he's in the subway, that whole scene, and they kind of chopped it around where you'd see him with one assassin and then another assassin. You'd see
everything just picks up one after the other, which is amazing.
But yeah, they had to do the pencil scene. They had to do it. Good call.
And this was all done within New York City, by the way, too, which is amazing. So there were pinnacle locations within that scene itself, too, between the subway, the Metro North, and everything else. And then him going through different areas and locations that are very much a staple within New York City.
Okay, see, I'm out here in the flyover state, so I wouldn't have recognized most of those.
Yeah, to me, being from New York City, I just noticed those right away. It's like, I've been there. Yeah, well, okay. Well, how did they stop all the people within that area to film this? So obviously it's a filming location, so they had to shut down for a little bit. And I kid you not, everybody, shutting down a portion of New York to film takes a lot of money.
Yeah, I am sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, but they had to do the pencil scene. It's foreshadowing. Just like he had to have a dog again.
Yeah, very much. Do you have another particular scene that you like?
Well, along with that scene, we have Cassian and John getting together again through that subway. And there's one part where they are walking. I think it's right when he sees him, when Cassian sees John again. And Cassian is up on a walkway above him, and John's down, below. It's that beautiful white open space. So much of the first movie was all dark, and the caverns and everything in Rome, they're all dark, but they're in this bright white space. And they can see each other. And like under their arms, real sneaky, like they've got their guns with silencers, and they're kind of going, pew, 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 back and forth at each other. Like nobody's noticing this. And
exactly.
And people don't. I love that little part.
It's like, it's just another day.
Yeah. And they're just kind of walking along like, nobody's looking at us. So, but yeah. And then that, of course, culminates in the end scene where John stabs him in the aorta.
Oof.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And lets him know if you pull it out, you die. If it stays there, well, obviously you die.
You have a chance because somebody could actually save you. Yeah.
And then he's gone 3 seconds later. But,
of course.
Yeah. But it's a callback to the consider this a professional courtesy. Just like
Literally.
Cassian says to him in the bar in Italy when he pays for the drinks. Kind of a little different courtesy.
Well, it's a courtesy in a sense that it's like, all right, I'm going to let you live. And with, I guess with Cassian, it was kind of a form of respect. Mm-hmm. But in this case, it's a respect of, I'm not going to just kill you or do you in. I'm just going to leave it in there.
Yeah.
And give you a chance to live.
Well, and that's foreshadowing for a character we meet later who has that same choice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's another great scene. I mean, it's kind of corny, but when he meets the Bowery King is just...
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful.
And the Bowery King is, of course, what? Lawrence Fishburne.
Lawrence Fishburne.
And that leads right in, which we didn't really mention, and people we may know. Obviously, we all know who Lawrence Fishburne is. We know him from The Matrix. that he
Well, we know
worked with
both of them from The Matrix.
from the Matrix,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's pretty cool to see Neo
And Morpheus,
and Morpheus
reunited.
in one particular scene together, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But also leads into, that homeless guy in the subway that John knows and asks to pay to get him out of there. That was pretty interesting too. It's like one of those, hey, get me out of here. And it was like an assassin's way of trying to get out. And there are certain key people that he knows.
Mm-hmm.
Tells him that John Wick needs to see him. And we see a lot of the espionage, and this world is deep.
Yeah.
Especially when we see, Lawrence Fishburne near the Brooklyn Bridge as an iconic character. I think of him as an iconic actor, but but it's someone John had once saved, and had taken care of and let go at one point, but now needs help within his journey right now. So he seeks him out. It was somebody that pretty much, if you think about it, sort of got out, but he still eyes and ears on the street of what's going on and stays away from the Continental.
Right. Well, and the myth of what happened kind of elevates him, I believe he's explaining to John, that he now has a higher status after almost being killed by John Wick and surviving. So, and what a character, first of all, like just even his beggars and buskers out on the street, what a clever storytelling piece of how to get John out of all those assassins. Everybody's an assassin. So after he's fighting them all, and you can see he is just spent, how's he going to get out of this? Well, there's one of the Bowery King's minions, soldiers, spies. That was clever. Yeah.
Yeah. And another scene that I did enjoy was with Ruby Rose as well as Keanu. And it was the last scene with John, and it showed a lot of respect within one another, those two particular characters. Now, mind you, she's mute.
Yeah, she's deaf.
She's not speaking at all. But at least there was that confirmation of respect amongst, killers or assassins. Mm-hmm. And it was really, really cool, I thought.
Yeah, she's quite a character. But yeah, I admire that they put a character in here, and I don't know much about the comics, whether she's a character from the book. But again, a movie choosing to make one of its main characters part of the deaf community was really nice to see. I mean, you can just incorporate that in there. Of course, if you're an assassin, I would think that that's a drawback, but maybe, like you said, maybe she's mute and she can hear. I hadn't thought of it that way.
I had read a few things. They stated that, and a lot of people who have reviewed or checked or, looked at this particular movie, they said that she wasn't deaf. She was just mute. She could not speak.
Good catch. I didn't catch that.
So it's not as if she was deaf. She was able to hear. She was able to understand.
Okay. So that makes sense why she's still alive, because I can't imagine if you were deaf, you'd be a great assassin.
Correct.
It would be a drawback. It'd be handy.
Yeah, but, it's a good way of not being, if you don't say anything, forget it. You don't get yourself in trouble.
Well, and she has quite a few hired hands around her, other assassins. She's kind of in charge. She is the god of war, after all. Ares is the god of war in Greek mythology. And
the last of it for me would be, Winston flat out stating, "What have you done, John?" Now John is on the run. He did the one thing you don't do within the Continental. You don't kill people. So he's left off and now is on the run for his life. And the next part we will continue with John Wick 3 at that point. So there's a lot within the Continental, and there have been talks about them doing a show regarding the Continental itself.
I was going to ask if you've heard anything about Stars picked that up. And in interviews, they talked about it, but I haven't heard anything recently about whether that's really going to happen.
It is in production.
Good. Oh, good.
I was watching Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin on Fat Man Beyond, and Mark, actually, I love to quote, he got all the facts and information, so I highly recommend you listeners to, look at or watch, it's probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago that they did a Fat Man Beyond, and they bring it up, and
Oh,
the movie
great.
news, or as they talk about. So Mark's pretty cool and gets all the cool media gossip that's out there when it comes to movies.
Now, is that on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube, and it's on, you could get it as well on podcasts. So you could easily just find it in any podcast player of choice.
Okay.
But yeah, he did state that it's in high development right now for a show about the Continental. It's in production, and it literally gives you more insight about the Continental and how it's designed.
Oh, I'm going to have to find that.
So
yeah, maybe at the end you can put it in some production notes, or, I can just go off to the Google machine and find it.
Correct. Yeah, it's cool to listen to. It's a short little piece of information, but he did confirm that they are in production of this. So
I'm glad to hear that.
So it's a good thing, and we get more of the John Wickverse, if I like to call it.
Wickverse. As long as it's not Wicker Man.
John Wickverse, I guess you could call it that, too.
Yeah, there we go.
So, all right.
Well, cool. And there's that scene, too, that you just mentioned on a little bit, when Winston says, John, what have you done?
What have you done, John?
Yes, when he just, Santino's in the middle of saying, I don't remember, talking to John, and right in the middle of his sentence, John just shoots him in the head.
Yep, and you see it. It was on top of the building, I believe, and it was a great skyline view of all things. Or maybe it was in a courtyard. But even still, it was like the best particular portrayed scene within New York when it was a really good-looking day out there. But yet, oh no, we got this violence and somebody's dead on the floor.
Yeah, well, and who wouldn't want to shoot Santino in the head after you've watched him in this whole movie? He's a despicable man.
Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many. I mean, I can pick out every scene, and most of them where anybody's talking. And now it's an action movie, and this has more action in it than a ton of movies. But while I watch it, I can pretty much, just give the lines right along with the actors for so many of them. We didn't mention that great scene, that great bit where John shows up in Italy and he goes to see the sommelier, and he gets his suits tailored, and there's a map person showing him that whole, I think you had referenced it as a Bond sequence.
Yes. Him getting his suit, his guns, especially that guy who you mentioned it before we started recording. I forgot his name, but he was in Shaun of the Dead. He played the roommate.
Yeah, what a weird, strange casting choice, but that's part of the.
He played that kind of pompous British attitude. And sir, do you want to see dessert?
Yes.
And desserts like a various of different handguns and everything, small handguns.
Yes.
Which is so cool.
The going through the whole thing as a sommelier, every course is a different, handguns and yeah, it gets
or knife.
What would you like? I want something bold and robust. Well, or thinking that'd be a wine, but no, that was, I'd like to show you this Australian. I know you're partial to German.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed that particular scene too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's certain scenes like that within the movie that just you just love to watch because just the way they go about it and the respect of the assassin itself. And then you get to see his tastes as well as he's going through all these little montages of picking out his suit, picking out his guns, picking out his knife.
Well, and that's part of the humor we were talking about. Now, it's not like a joke, but just the play on words with this, he's going through the suit and the tailor's asking him, how would you like this or that? And he wants a trim and this. Do you need one for day or night? One for both day and night. And he's going through, he's answering all these things, and what's the occasion?
And on top of that, the amount of money that he has to fork out. Think about it. Those coins are, I don't know how much they would be worth each, but he has handfuls of them.
Yeah. Well, they all do.
Yeah.
Reinforced pockets, man. How do you carry around that much gold?
Exactly. And it's funny too, because in the first movie, he went to his basement. He still had a bunch of those coins, but he also goes to a bank where he has more of them.
Yeah.
And they're stashed.
Right, in a Hasidic Jewish bank.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that heartbreaking in that scene too. He pulls it out and there's the gun and and I believe he's got a suit in there too. Kind of signifies he's putting back on his assassin role. But when he just kind of breaks out and screams.
Yes.
Remember that? It was so heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was like, it's like, you sucked me in. Yeah. I'm back in this, and I don't want to be back in it.
Yeah, he had one little
it's something
release
that he has to do because of everything that had happened in the previous movie, obviously.
Right.
That led into this.
Well, it's like when we have a bad day. You go out to your car, you roll up the windows, and you just gotta scream sometimes.
Well, I think, with John, unfortunately, this is more than just a bad day. This is going to be a bad month. So it's been a bad week already. So it just moves into the next week. So he's moving on to that next. It's like, all right, well, I already dispatched this one person that already killed my dog and took my car. And I had to deal with that and then deal with that person. Now I got another person who's got a mark on me.
Yeah, nonstop.
And then after that, he did that, and it's like, oh, great, I dispatched this person in the one place I'm not supposed to. Now everybody's got a mark on me. Now I got to move on, and it's the next movie.
Yeah. Well, and it doubles his bounty, because Santino puts bounty on him first for the $7 million, which also gets discussed with the Bowery King and is important in that little bit. But then it doubles. Was it the Round Table that doubled it?
I think so.
The high table.
The high table did, yeah.
Mm-hmm. See, and there's so much in this. We haven't even brought up the high table and what Santino was asking him to do and why that was important and him wanting the seat on it. And we even find out that has something to do with his impossible task. There's so much in this movie.
Oh, yes. All right. Well, we talked a lot about this particular movie, so I think we should move right in to interesting facts and unknown facts about the movie, which is John Wick Chapter 2. So I'll start off from what I found. So they almost gave John Wick a daughter. Several possible storylines were disclosed before the creative team behind John Wick Chapter 2 settled on the idea of the legendary assassins returning to the fold to repay a debt. Yeah. So according to Screen Junkie's interview with Stileski and Leach, one possible scenario would have seen John come to the rescue of an estranged daughter. So the premise would have posed a unique challenge to Reeves, who had rarely, if ever, been cast in a paternal role of this kind.
It would have been a whole different movie.
Yeah.
That's not who John Wick is. It's not his character. And it's not in the book, but glad they skipped that one.
Yeah, but ultimately, however, Reeves and the creative team behind the film opted against what was, in truth, a cliched action movie trope. Mm-hmm. So I kind of leave that in the idea of, like, we've already covered that with Commando, with Steve and I, with Schwarzenegger, and he had his daughter captured, and he had or the movie Taken, which I've never even covered yet, with Liam Neeson and Maggie Grace, and it's kind of a cliche trope in itself. With this, at least they continue on with just centering around the main character itself, and literally it's just himself putting himself in these positions of these issues that he has.
When it's been done already, it's been done.
Yeah, when it's been done, it's done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wouldn't be a John Wick movie. Just wouldn't be a John Wick movie.
Yeah, what is he going to say? He'll pick up the phone. I have plenty of abilities, and I could use them all. Okay, Mr. Neeson, we've heard this before. My name's John. No,
please. I don't even want to think about that movie.
I have a set of skills. All right. Well, number 2, the idea for a sequel began with a vision of Keanu Reeves as Bruce Lee. Mm-hmm. The seeds for John Wick sequel were sown from a single idea that popped into the head of writers Chad Stileski. So a vision of Keanu Reeves stalking an unseen enemy through Room of Mirrors in homage to Bruce Lee's classic Enter the Dragon. So you already spoke about this, Kat, so it's pretty cool. Stileski told The Verge, didn't even have a story yet, but I just went, yeah, we're going to redo Enter the Dragon. We're going to do Bruce Lee and Mr. Han in the Mirror Room. That's where it all came from. So it was like, how can I make a Mirror Room better?
Yeah, and they did.
They did, and they took a lot of time shooting that particular sequence, which is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, and we mentioned, okay, New York is one major setting, Italy is a major setting, but also that museum is a huge part of this. There's a meeting in there. There's a lot of symbolism in it. So you can just watch this as an action flick, but between the homage to Enter the Dragon and the symbolism in the background and this kind of tale of mythology that's a rabbit hole I jumped down.
Well, the funny thing is, if you think about the locations themselves are pretty much almost a character within the movie itself.
Yeah.
And that's really what attracts a lot of people, including myself, when you see New York City in a different light. If you're a New Yorker, you see it differently. It's like, where did this world come from? I don't know this New York. Or you do see Italy, and it's like, wow, I never saw that part of Italy before. Or even with that mirror room, or that museum.
Right. I was at
new.
cheap funhouse mirror rooms, and that was just about the closest to John Wick's world I probably have ever been.
Yeah, just don't go in there with a gun.
No guns allowed in those kind of fairs. Yeah. Concealed carry permit or not, no guns.
Yeah, exactly.
But knives now, you could bring your knife.
Oh, no. Then you actually hit yourself and be like, oh, I'm stabbing myself. No. I'm sorry I broke your mirror.
Well, you can have a pencil. You can take your pencil.
Oh, that's just wrong. All right, well, number 3, Keanu Reeves performed even more of the film's stunts.
Yeah.
So Reeves did the bulk of his own stunt work on John Wick. However, the creative team behind John Wick Chapter 2 were determined to up the ante for the sequel, as per usual. The result was only more training and pre-production, but more involvement in the movie's intense stunt work. So for Stileski, it was about making the film as real as possible to the fans and a cut above other action films of the time.
And it is.
And he's quoted as saying, "We just took it a higher level." And Stileski told Wired, "I want the audience to know it's Keanu doing 98% of this stuff." And we all know that Keanu Reeves loves to do action work. We already know this.
Well, and he refuses to say he's doing stunt work. He just says, I'm doing really physical acting. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I'm not doing stunts. Stuntmen do stunts. I'm just doing really physical acting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Number 4, he wrecked 4 classic Mustangs making the movie. So John Wick Chapter 2 begins the titular assassin reducing his beloved 1969 Ford Mustang to a mangled wreck during a thrilling opening set piece in a warehouse. What many fans may not have realized was that it was, in fact, Reeves behind the wheel for most of the action. So, for you car enthusiasts that love those Mustangs, Keanu destroyed them all.
Sad, but kind of looks fun.
It does. I'm sure he had fun doing it, and he was like, I don't have to pay for this. The movie is.
And like we said, it just, when that car limps away with no car doors, and I swear to God, no tires anymore. It just, it's good.
Number 5, Keanu Reeves trained for 3 months to prepare for the role. So Reeves spent 4 months learning judo and jiu-jitsu for John Wick. But the sequel is even more intense. We had Keanu train for 4 months and expanded the type of weapons he uses. And that's what Stileski told Wired. And we went deeper into that gun work and mix-up of jiu-jitsu and judo and used longer takes.
Yeah.
Stunt coordinator J.J. Perry told The Verge, when we're training Keanu in those 3.5 months of prep, we've already come up with, let's say, 30 moves that we love. So we train Keanu on those, even if we don't know where they're going to go.
Right.
And he does this with anything. He did that within The Matrix. He learned judo and all that.
Yeah.
This is just relearning and retooling for this particular movie.
Well, I'm getting back into shape. Oh my God.
Oh, that as well,
Yeah.
A lot of people, after a while, they just don't do it as often. But I'm sure Keanu Reeves is busy with his motorcycle company, too, so... And I would love one of those bikes, but they're like 50 grand. Uh,
Yeah, no, I'll just watch the movies and
and enjoy his work.
yes, and be a fan of
same
Keanu
here.
Reeves and watch him do anything. I'd watch the guy take a nap.
I'm thinking a lot of women would.
You think?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and if you look up any of the training montages or where they filmed his training online on YouTube and everything, they're fabulous. They're just really interesting. Even in this one, they did a lot of the same kind of vocalizations you do with jujitsu and the other things. They put it right in the movie, and I don't remember that much of the sound being in there, but they look like they sound like they're doing it. Aside from hits, just even it went deep. It was good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Number 6, Keanu Reeves came up with the idea for the Gianna bat scene. So, work on John Wick Chapter 2 reached an impasse when it came to the scene in which Wick must take out Gianna D'Antonio. Stelsky was unsure how to bring it to life. Something wasn't feeling right, he told Empire. Reeves came up with the solution. Gianna should end her own life in a disturbing sequence in which she strips off, gets in bath, and ends it all. I thought, that's pretty hardcore. That's a little creepy. I couldn't get it out of my head. And that's what Stelsky said. It fitted the work. It fitted the Wick world.
Yeah.
That's just the way these people live. And yeah, it was weird because, beautiful woman just taking off everything and just going right into this huge tub, as it were, and then just killing herself with a knife.
Yeah. Well, and it's it's a hard scene to talk about because it's kind of this glamorous, seductive kind of motion and movement. And one of her quotes, he says, why? When she's going to do it. I mean, John's a little perplexed and says, why? And she says, I lived my life my way and I'm going to die my way. But of course, John has to finish it because that's how he fulfills his marker. Yeah.
But he didn't have to do his job with ending her at that point either.
But she
just took care. Well, she did it herself.
No, if she died by suicide, he wouldn't have fulfilled the marker. So
very true.
He had to finish. She passed out, and that was kind of this rabbit hole of mythology and everything, and the Greek mythology and Catholic symbolism in it. Like I said, it's a hard scene to talk about, but they pull out, and she's in the bath in the kind of the pose of Jesus on the cross, and at the same time, the second time I looked at it, the red is moving out. It looks like wings. I mean, I might be reading a little too much into this.
Oh, I thought that way too.
Okay.
Where, yeah. Well, we don't have to top on that. I'm sure I don't want to really disturb people with that, but just watch the movie if you haven't watched it. Obviously, you have if you're listening to this. Yeah. Well, and
does she ask him about damnation? Do you fear damnation? I think that's how she put it.
Yes.
And one of the interviews or articles I read was also alluding to the fact that it's Italy. There's Catholic overtones to things. And if she truly takes her own life, then there's repercussions in the Catholic faith about that. So he kind of saves her from whatever those consequences would be in that religion by finishing before she's gone.
Correct.
Like I said, it's a tricky scene to talk about.
It is tricky.
But yeah, it was creepy, and it did fit the John Wick world.
Yeah, it bordered on almost like horror at that point, too, if you think about it.
You know what else it reminded me of? Way off on a tangent. In Constantine, now it's a whole different bath scene, but there's also, water bath scene. Sorry,
and drowning.
That was going off. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with Rachel Weisz, and he, basically you have to die, and she goes in the water, and he holds her down, and then, that was hard to take, too.
Not getting in a hot tub with John. Watch him nap, not getting in a hot tub with him.
All right. So number 7, Keanu Reeves struck up a bond with his dog on set. So John Wick's actions in his first film may have been motivated by his love for an adorable puppy dog, but in real life, Reeves enjoyed a closer relationship with the dog in the sequel.
What a beautiful dog.
Yeah, Reeves revealed to MTV he bonded with Burton, the pit bull cast as Bubba in the film, regularly feeding him, taking him for walks, and generally chilling in a bid to make their relationship, seem real on screen.
Mm-hmm. It showed.
Burton was originally a rescue dog who ended up landing the job on account of his sad eyes.
Aww.
Stelsky described him the most gentle personality you could imagine from a pit bull. Aww.
Well, everyone I talk to who has them says that is their nature. Like any dog, it depends on how they're raised, I think.
That is true.
Yeah. Some of it's genetics, but I think just as much as how they're raised and bred.
Oh, yes.
Anyway.
Number 8, Chapter 2 has John's highest kill count. So you already spoke about this. John Wick has oft staggering 299 people over the course of the original trilogy of the movies. That's more than both Michael Myers and Halloween franchise and Jason Voorhees in the Friday the 13th films.
Combined. And they made it look so much more fun.
Oh, yeah, right? However, the Hitman is undoubtedly at his deadliest in John Wick Chapter 2. The Baba Yaga or Boogeyman takes out 128 assorted henchmen and underworld figures over the course of the second film. So that's a major step up from the 77 taken out in the first film. Almost double, in fact. It's also significantly more than the 94 offed in John Wick 3 Parabellum.
Yeah. Crazy.
It is. Number 9, Keanu spent months training on how to reload. So Stelsky was determined to make John Wick Chapter 2 as authentic as possible. That meant real reloading. Mm-hmm. It's a bugbear for the stuntman turned director how in many action movies characters don't run out of bullets. The reason Hollywood doesn't do reloads much is because it's difficult and it makes people look goofy, he told Empire.
But John Wick did not look goofy doing it.
So he wanted Wick running out of ammo and reloading on screen. That meant more training, but it paid off. And he says, Keanu does every kind of reload imaginable. He's actually loading a shotgun and a shot with no cuts. Sounds fun? Sounds easy. That's 5 months of shooting. Wow.
Sounds like a lot of pinch fingers. And yeah, in my notes later, like looking on YouTube, that I heard in one of the interviews that he had trained with this 3-time international 3-gun champion, Taron Butler. And you can find clips of their training where he's again, they're talking about doing it realistically, like you're talking about with reloading. And it's amazing how he's got the shotgun, he's holding 2 shells at a time and loading them in.
Mm-hmm.
Twice. He does it in a smooth motion and doesn't look awkward. But yeah, that training video is terrific.
It's crazy because there are places in California that you could do these. You could pick up any style of gun and go through this course and shoot through it. And I believe there's a lot of actors that do that. They actually film themselves doing it.
Right.
And I think Keanu Reeves was one of them. I believe Norman Reedus did this on Ride at one point with another actor. And it's pretty fun to watch because you look at them and some of them can't really do it because they have to do it over and over and over again to learn the moves. So, and I think Gina Carano did one recently as well, where she did her own little thing. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty funny to watch those because it's like, all right, well, if you watch it in one straight like run of them filming and them going over it a few times, you could see where they messed up, and then somebody corrects them, and then they go through it, and it's fun that way.
Yeah, in this clip, you can just see he runs through that course by the time he looked pretty good anyway, but he runs through it just like the movie. He just boom, 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 and it also
hitting his targets. Yep.
Yeah. Halle Berry from Parabellum. It shows her in there too, and Taron says that she's one of the best actresses ever to go through his course.
Awesome.
Yeah, she needs to use that more often.
Yeah. That she does. Number 10, the final showdown was choreographed to Vivaldi. So the
Did not know that.
Yeah, the climactic battle was a mammoth undertaking for creative team behind John Wick, who decided to choreograph the action to Vivaldi's Four Seasons. It was a simple enough idea. All the percussion was removed from the original music with gunshots designed to feature in their place. Wow. Very much almost like what me and Paige were talking about with Baby Driver.
Yep.
And how the movie and the interactions, Edgar Wright had done that and did it purposely. Mm-hmm. So maybe they were just trying to take a page from Edgar Wright at this point. So I think that's pretty cool.
Can you imagine, though, mashing up syncopating the gunfire and getting that scene right, all while matching this Vivaldi? I'm going to have to go back and look at it and listen to that and see how that goes, because I did not know that.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. Like I said, I usually copy and paste whatever I find, and these are interesting, unknown facts. I don't read them beforehand, I just throw them in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's my strategy. It's the I want to be shocked or interested as I read them as I go. But to end it, John's guns becomes the percussion. And that's what Stelsky said to Empire. The composer was like, you have to choreograph it and edit it. And your edit would have to be locked. You can change the tempo a little bit, but you're pretty locked in. So several months of filming and editing later, they had their scene. So the key is the editing.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It just, you don't think about how it all moves together in this, but it's amazing. It's like a dance. It's choreographed. It's the music. This could be like live.
So do you have any other unknown notes or what I had?
What you have?
Is there anything we haven't talked about?
I cut and paste, but it's after I've gone through this long rabbit hole.
Yeah, I know.
Just like, so I'm never ready for these because I can just keep going farther and farther and farther and farther. I guess, we've gone over a lot of it, that the training montage with Keanu and this expert are terrific. Yeah. One of the weird little offshoots, and I included a link here. There's an article, and again, I think it's Ranker, where they're talking about how the story of John Wick matches a lot of Greek myths. And the first thing I thought of with that was, when I started this rabbit hole, is when John enters the Continental, and the concierge name is Sharon. It's with a K, I think. And that's the name of the boatman, the ferryman in the underworld. That you have to pay with... you have to pay him with a coin, and he takes you across the river Styx to meet with Hades. So John walks in, I guess with this rabbit hole I went down, that means Winston represents Hades, the god of the underworld, and they're literally in the Continental and talking about the underworld. So it's like a big spiral, man.
Yeah.
Ruby Rose plays Ares, the god of war. There's in the museum, there are Greek statues. One of them is of Hercules, and I guess the closest they could find in Greek mythology for John's equivalent would be Hercules. And there's a great big statue of Hercules behind him in one point. Hercules kills the lion, and that becomes his shield of armor cloak, and John goes to the tailor and gets that's his lion skin. It's a great big rabbit hole, you guys, if you want to jump down it. I couldn't find anything about the name Cassian in there, but it's kind of fun. Well, there's some good articles.
The only Cassian I remember is from Star Wars.
Oh, gosh, maybe that's where it sounds familiar. There was a monk named Cassian back in the 1300s who wrote about individualism and reflection, and that was another rabbit hole, is all the reflections in it culminating in the Hall of Mirrors. But like, we see John enters the scene with Gianna, and we see him first in a mirror. There's a lot of little just kind of tiny scenes in here where we see John's reflection before we see him straight on.
Ah, that's true.
Yeah, there's one where at the water fountain, it's just all these little tiny things that, wow, these people really had to think about it. And a lot of movies that are action movies don't put these little details in there for people to go out on the internet and discover. But yeah, the Greek mythology tidbits were pretty interesting and right on, right on spot with a lot of it. So that was one thing. The other little reference, we got to meet Julius at the Continental in Rome, in Italy. And I thought it was funny that the first thing he wanted to know from John when, he pays the ferryman, I don't remember her name in that Continental, but the first thing Julius wants to know is, are you here? And he says it in Italian. Are you here for the father? Are you here to, pretty much assassinate the Pope? Like, nope. And okay, come on in. You're welcome. But he's got to know, are you here for the Padre?
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my only little tidbits. Like I said, we found out New York is full of assassins, beggars, spies. It's just amazing. So anyway, it's just fun. The whole trilogy, they put a lot of fun little bits in here that if you love the series and you respect this director and the actors, it's just fun to dive into.
Well, it's funny because it's not more of a trilogy anymore. It's more of a continuing saga because they're working on John Wick 4. Mm-hmm. And they're also working on, like you stated before, the Continental for Stars that we talked about. So this is going to be an ongoing saga, or like I say, the Wickverse. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. They've built their own universe now, and it keeps getting bigger. In Parabellum, we see it explode even more.
Yeah, and there's going to be more people involved. It would be cool to see more of Ian Mcshane, and I think Mcshane has been tapped for the Continental too.
I hope
as
so.
well. I think the premise is that the first part that we get on that particular show is that they go into Winston's past and how he's able to create the Continental and hide these assassins within an early New York. So you're talking it's got to be like 30 or 40 years before.
Oh, that's interesting.
When he's a young man or doing what he has to do for, let's say, a mob or something. Mm-hmm. And then that's how they create the whole idea and premise of the Continental, and then how they come up with their rules and what they do there and how they're able to keep these people safe.
Right. And he has to have some kind of a truce or connection to the high table in order to work that through. But gosh, who would play a young Ian Mcshane? Who would play a young Winston? Gosh.
I'm curious.
I know.
That'd be cool.
I'll have to think about that. Good. I hope they do. I mean, he's not doing American Gods anymore, so he's got the time.
He's got the time. He could always be the person that starts it off and do his monologue, and they could do a quick shot of him and him explaining his history, or maybe he's writing a memoir.
Yeah. Well, and then it could be the assassin of the week. He comes in for bits, and then we meet a new assassin. I mean, I don't know if that's the way they're going to do the story, and they'll just have little bits of our characters as a through line, but we're going to meet more people and
maybe a young John Wick.
See, and who would play him too?
Yeah.
Cannot imagine. Yep. Now I want to know. This is going to be another rabbit hole, Mark.
You got time, so you can do that at night. All right.
Rabbit hole.
So that was a lot of unknown or some facts about John Wick Chapter 2 and us going into a little tangent.
Yeah, big tangent.
And now we could move on to quotes. So I have a few. I'm sure you have a couple yourself.
What's your favorite quote, John? Or what's your favorite quote, Mark?
Call me John.
I'm thinking, who's going to play a young John Wick? Are you up for that?
No. I think Keanu's got me maybe by 8 years.
Yeah. I'll be the concierge. I'll volunteer for that one.
I'll be the kid that brings his luggage to his room. Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
You could be an adjudicator.
Yeah. Or I'll take one of the coins and then just take it home because I just want one of the coins.
Thank you. Goodbye. No. Well, what's your favorite quote, Mark?
Let me see. That would be Santino saying, "What is this?" And Winston says, "He completed the task. The marker is over." And Santino states, "Mark it." And And then Winston says, Mr. Wick isn't dead already. He soon will be.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was still Santino. But even still, Winston responds, will you mark it, sir? Then Santino marks it with his blood with the emblem of, or locket.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be, that was their ritual of like setting up a marker
Right.
for somebody. And then no sooner after that, everybody's phones are blowing up like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great scene. Was that the one where Winston starts with the little speech about you stab the devil?
Yes.
Love that. That was in my quotes.
Okay. Do you have one or?
Well, I guess we can just go with that one. I mean, that scene starts. Winston, Ian Mcshane takes over every scene he's in, I think. But I love when he looks at Santino and says, you stabbed the devil in the back. You forced him back into this life that he had left. Yeah. You incinerated the priest's temple. You burned it to the ground, which he did. But I love him referring to John as, you incinerated the priest's temple. Now he's free of the marker. What do you think he's going to do? He had a glimpse of the other side. He embraced it. But you, Signor D'Antino, trouble with that.
Signor D'Antino.
D'Antino. Yeah.
D'Antonio,
okay.
actually.
D'Antonio. Yes. That's okay. Right. You took it away from him. So it's kind of like, Winston is laying down the law. He's letting him know, what the fuck are you thinking about? Just like you said to John in the beginning. What the fuck? I mean, I don't think he swears. Yes. But he's like, what were you thinking, John? What did you think would happen? So now he's talking to Santino and saying the same thing. For God's sake, you burnt down the man's temple. Literally. And that temple had Helen and all of his stuff from Helen. It had that birthday card in it, I believe.
Yeah.
So, it's Santino taking away more and more and more of Helen. So, Winston could read a cookbook to me and I'd be wrapped with attention. Do you have another one?
Not really. A lot of what I had was I put inside when we were discussing scenes and stuff.
Oh, I thought you might have had the one with in the beginning after the car chase when he meets with Peter Stormere's. I cannot remember that character's name, but when they go over the myth or the story of the pencil, when he says to the guy, he's talking with one of his henchmen, like while John is downstairs just annihilating everyone, and the guy comes upstairs and they're kind of talking about like, what is with this guy in the car? And he's like, that's not any guy. That's John Wick. Well, why don't you just eliminate him? And he goes into like, he's a myth. He's a legend. He's determined, all this stuff. And then he starts to tell the story of the pencil. And the guy goes, yeah. I heard that. And he says, the quote was, he once killed 3 people in a bar. And the guy kind of interjects in. He says, with a fucking pencil. Who the fuck knows how to do that? Oh, God. And then just the one other, I think it's so quotable when he meets a Bowery King and they talk over their deal with, John's going to get 7 bullets, 1 for each million on his head. But when Lawrence Fishburne says, would somebody please get this man a gun? And it's so dramatic. It's just, he's rolling his eyes the whole time. And that's a good one.
But it's perfect Lawrence Fishburne, though.
It is. It's perfect for the character, too. And they wrote that character in when they were writing this with him in mind.
I believe it.
Yep.
It suits his personality.
It is. He plays it well. He's bigger than life.
Yes.
So.
All right.
Yeah, those were my 2.
Okay, no problem. And with that, that's pretty much our coverage, but we'll go into ratings. So this is what I like to do. We like to rate this movie between 1 and 10 on an adrenaline scale. So what's your rating on this movie?
On an adrenaline scale, it's off the charts. I mean, it is. It's all adrenaline, so that'd be for sure a 10. But I rated it as 9.8 pencil stabbies to the head.
Awesome.
But, I think I called the other one a 10, and maybe it's because it was just the first time you'd seen a lot of it. But this is 9.8. I don't know where I'm taking the 0.2 points off for, but
I give it a solid 9 in the sense that I just love the action throughout the whole movie. But, you know, what really endeared me more than anything was some of the humorous aspects within it, like we already talked about, with the montage of him, you know, with the guns, the suiting up.
Yeah, the tailor, the sommelier.
The tailor, everything within the Continental, especially when, you know, John brings the dog into the Continental. And the guy standing goes, "Can you watch him for a little bit?"
Yeah. He asks if they provide a boarding service for the dog. Do you board here? The concierge says, "No, but I would be honored to take that responsibility myself." Yeah.
Yeah. And he pays him a little extra too, I believe.
Yeah.
And yeah, things like that really captivated me more than anything. It's I can't give anything a dedicated 10 or, you know, or even 11 at this point, but it gave me the full feels of an action film, and obviously we got one more to go when it comes to this trilogy, so I don't want to be constantly giving them all high praises.
Well, more of the dog and more of the concierge. They keep getting better.
Yep. So, cool. Those are our ratings on this. I'm sure you guys out there listening have their own ideas and thoughts of ratings. You're probably saying, no, it's a pure 10. But, you know, that's your choice. And if you want, you could always send that in feedback if you like.
Yeah, tell us why.
Tell us why and what you think of it.
Or tell us why you don't think it's a 10. Why you don't you think we're crazy because we like it so much. Yeah,
some people could be like, nah, that movie sucks. But that's where we move into guilty pleasure movies. So that could be any movie that are not popular or great, but you just love to watch every once in a while, or you just love to watch it, but it might not have gotten a great IMDb score or Rotten Tomato score, or maybe a bunch of friends of you are like having a conversation, you bring up the movie, they're like, that movie sucked. And you're like, oh, great. But I love it. But it's movies that you love, but it's what you like to watch, but some people deem it not the best.
What you like is what you like.
Exactly. But I just call them, I quote them as guilty pleasure movies.
And not everything can be art.
Exactly. So, what was your movie?
Oh, I was going to say Pacific Rim, but I think I used that one last time. But it's always up there. So I had two other ones. One that I do love, and I just think it's so much fun, is Rush Hour with Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. It's just pure fun. I mean, it's an easy movie to watch. It's great to have in the background. Again, comedy. It makes me laugh all the time. Oh,
physical action comedy like that I always enjoy, and I do love Jackie Chan and everything he's done. One of my favorites, honestly, would be Rumble in the Bronx.
Really?
Which was it was never even filmed in the Bronx.
Unlike John Wick, they did not go on location.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one's fun. I guess the one that would fit, like, if you're going to go with guilty pleasure, or speaking of movies that suck, or that people hated, the other one is 300.
Oh, the 300?
With the Spark. Yeah, with Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler, when they had the painted on abs.
Lena Headey, one of our favorites.
She's in it.
Yeah. It's fun. And a lot of people hated that movie.
It's funny, too, because at the time it was very popular when it came out. I remember when it came out in the theaters, every comic nerd that I knew loved that because of the action, the cinematography, and everything in it. And it's not a bad movie. Mm-hmm. It was just portrayed the way it would be within the comic, and I thought it was done very well.
And that was new. Again, just like the long shots with John Wick.
Yeah.
The film style they used for 300 was very new. So I guess unless you were into the comics or into that genre and world, people looked at it and went, what the hell?
Yeah, but it was a known comic and people loved it. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was done very well for what it was. And it was based on what they thought was fact about the original 300 at that time. But obviously adapted to comic form and then adapted to movie form, which, I still enjoy. People loved it when it came out. Now when people look back at it, they don't look back at it with fond moments.
So fondly. They aren't so, No, it's just one that if I see it's on, I can, if we still flipped around channels, I would stop on it and watch it.
I actually did that at a client's house after we finished an installation, and the
there you
client goes,
go.
"What movie is this?" So he was like, "I gotta watch this later."
And you looked at this 20-year-old and said, "Oh boy."
No. He was around my age, had kids, and
Yeah.
he was just like, and then he didn't realize he had it on DVD. And I think that's what one of the guys I worked with, he just threw it in the Blu-ray player.
Yeah, I saw this
have
at a
this movie?
drive-in. It was really fun at a drive-in.
Mine would be, of all things, and we're going to be covering this. Jerry and I are going to be covering it. It's called Logan's Run, and that came out in 1976.
Yeah, I remember watching that one.
And it's not viewed upon by a lot of people as a great movie. Of all things, it was a PG film for its time, but there was a lot of nudity and violence in that movie for a PG film.
There was, and there was a really bad robot that scared the crap out of me. I don't know why. I thought it was creepier than hell.
Yeah. But it's an interesting concept where, they can't live past the age of 30. They're all, it kind of gave me that feeling, and I just watched it recently with The Island with Ewan McGregor and...
Bing Rain?
No.
Who else was in it? Scarlett
Black
Johansson?
Widow? Yeah,
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson.
Okay,
it was a young Scarlett Johansson. It was before, I think it was like after Eight-Legged Freaks and after she had done that Bill Murray movie and when she was in Japan.
Oh, Lost in Translation.
Lost in Translation. Yep. Yeah. So it gave me that feels when I watched both again after a long time. And literally, they can't live past the age of 30. People are hunted down. They have these people that are specific. Logan is one of them. Then he is seeked out too. It's kind of like almost like a lottery at one point, if you think about it. And then it's their search of the truth of why they do these things, because he finds out people do live past their 30s, because you do watch it and you're like, wait a minute, there's somebody there that's over the age of 30 here.
Yeah.
So obviously people are allowed to live past the age of 30.
Yeah, people don't know they're sacrificing themselves and that you could live longer.
Exactly.
I think, right?
And it's like this, he basically explains the truth of the hypocrisy at the very end of the movie. But, this is an older film. A lot of people might not remember it. I do. But Jerry and I will be covering. He picked that movie, so I just thought that would be a great mention because I do enjoy the film. And I haven't watched it once he
you hadn't watched it?
Not in a long time.
Oh, okay.
I have it on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
But I just haven't watched it in a long time. And I'm like, oh, okay. But, the week before I had watched The Island. And it gave me the same feels too. But that if you guys are interested in that movie too, The Island is an interesting movie as well, where they use these people where the rich basically pay to have what would be a clone of them, but they think it's people with no brains. They don't have any function. They're like cloned without a head or have no emotions, no life. But
because you want some spare parts to live longer.
Yeah, exactly. So they secretly put these people in their own little world where they're brought up, and then they quote unquote use this thing called the lottery, and they go to this island.
And they're all excited to win the lottery, which means they get taken out to a
sentence.
little room, and someone needs a replacement liver.
Yeah, Michael Clark Duncan is the person you were thinking, not Ving Rhames, because he has that one scene where Ewan McGregor's character sees him. He sneaks into the operation, and he's literally in the middle of them. They're taking his heart out, and he's under anesthesia, and he comes out, and he starts screaming, going, "I want to live! I want to live!
Yep.
I want to go to the island!" That's when Ewan McGregor's character realizes the truth about everything about the island, and he has to get him and Scarlett Johansson's character out, and there's like a whole chase.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool.
Well, and you and Jerry are going to have a nice little niche there, like with the Jason and the Argonauts, these kind of early science fiction that, the special effects are special because that's what they were back then,
Yeah.
But so you guys will do a good job at that. I look forward to it.
We'll have fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just covered
Jason and the Argonauts.
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
No?
Nope. Recently, we just covered something. We did Planet of the Apes, so we went another route with an old classic suspenseful action film, Planet of the Apes from 1968 with Charlton Heston. So, yeah, that'll be out already. So you guys could check that one out. We had fun with that. And
That would be good.
yeah, we won't go further into the Apes lore. Maybe or not. We don't know. There's so many films and so many things
There
you
are
could
4
do.
of them. If you need to sleep, though, you could do, is it the second one? One of them was just a snooze
Yeah,
fest.
one of them is just like boring to the point where, and then I think the last movie that they did where they didn't have anybody from the original cast. It was just like, oh, go sleep.
No. Who is it? Woody Harrelson. Is that the one you mean?
No. I'm talking about
Okay.
the original series that was from like the
The
60s to the
series.
70s.
Oh my gosh.
The most recent version of the Apes was interesting. We topped on that.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing we mentioned out of respect to Tim Burton version, which I'm a Tim Burton fan, so I enjoyed it, but it wasn't the greatest of versions, but to me, I still enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because it had Pierre Boule's proper ending in the movie, and it wasn't something that was ever touched upon even with the original series or even with the new series itself. The new series, they kind of make it more modern, whereas at the very end of the Burton one, they actually tapped the source material where you do see apes with helicopters, cars,
I've never
everything.
seen that.
So that very ending scene is pretty cool, and I suggest everybody check that one out.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So with that, well, that's pretty much our coverage and our thoughts about John Wick Chapter 2. We went through our rating of the movie and our guilty pleasure movies. So with that, we move right along into where you could be heard. So
Where can I be heard?
yeah.
Usually outside talking to my baby goats, and people can hear me there. Yeah, they listen very well, but not many other people hear me here. Otherwise, I've been a guest host on a couple of the Pirate Core podcasts. I am hopefully getting a little more into the swing of things, getting ready for John Wick 3 and Parabellum, and also going to talk to Daphne and Peg about Pacific Rim.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You can find that on Run for Your Lives on the Pirate Core Entertainment Network too.
Yes.
Awesome. So.
And we can hear you here.
Oh, you could hear me here, but you could also hear me on my other podcast called Panels to Pixels, and that's on the Next Level Network. And there we do movies or TV shows or anime or cartoons, whatever, adapted from comic books. So we pretty much just wrapped up all of Loki, and we did our coverage of Black Widow. So you can check that out on the Panels to Pixels podcast on the Next Level Network when they're available.
Yeah. What are you going to be doing next on Panels to Pixels?
We'll be covering What If, like a lot of people we know are doing that. So I believe Podcastica is doing that as well with House Podcastica.
Yes.
So Jason and all our friends will probably be on there covering that. And same thing with Derek and his co-hosts on TV Podcast
John
Industry.
Chris.
So you have 3 different points of views of this show. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I get to hang out with my friends 3 times as often.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Excellent.
Well,
Look forward to that too.
Yeah. So we mentioned it earlier about sending in feedback. Well, to submit your theories and feedback, you can just go to our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/Adrenaline Cinema Podcast. And as you know, you're hearing us here, so you have us on a podcast player of choice, but we could be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, TuneIn, Deezer, any of those podcast player of choices. If you type in, Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, you should be able to find it. The best thing you could do for us is tell a friend. Word of mouth actually helps us out, so we are able to get more listeners. And if there's a review or rating in any of those platforms, we ask you if you could just give us a rating or review.
Yeah.
That would be greatly appreciated.
That helps out a lot.
It does. And with that, with the Pirate Core Entertainment Network, we're currently looking for content creators out there. You don't necessarily have to be a podcaster. We do enjoy podcasts, but we are looking for more other content as well. So if you or a friend are a content creator, you do a podcast, you do some sort of vlog, or if you're a YouTuber, or if you're just creative in some way and have your own website, please send us a sample of your work or a link to your work, and that could be sent to piratecoreentertainment@gmail.com. And with that, we'll take that into consideration, and we'll gladly invite you into the Pirate Core Entertainment family.
Yeah, guys, don't be shy. Jump right in there.
Just do that, and we'll take it into consideration, and we'll contact you, and we'll welcome you aboard willingly if we love what you're doing. The only thing that we ask is, being part of the Pirate Core Entertainment Network, is just support our fellow content creators on the network by just endorsing their work or the stuff that you like on the network. And that's all we ask. There's no payment involved. It's just being part of a community and people supporting one another verbally, whatever content that you're doing. It'd be amazing. So check that out and send that out if you're interested. And that's pretty much all we have for this evening. And I just want to thank everybody for listening. I'm Mark.
And I'm Kat.
And this was Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.